before we do that, I know you to be exceptionally good at all the things you do, but I need you to help me understand this. What happened here? Talk to me about this. That wasn't good. What happened there? What happened there?
That was not good, but why did you get a video of that one and not all of the ones that I actually made? Like,
I couldn't find them. I only could find this one. I couldn't even find the one where I magically stuck the butt of the axe into the bullseye. You have it. I need you to send that to me because I have no idea how I did it, but I did it. You know. But just one more time, the phenomenal KB. Bad. That was bad.
And maybe it was bad, and I'm gonna own being pretty like I either get lucky or it's not good, and that's just what it is. I guess.
But we had a blast. We had a great time, though.
All that matters.
That is hilarious.
Can't be good at everything.
Yeah. All right. I mean, exactly. Nobody's made perfect. So if that's your one, if axe throwing is your one weakness, then I think you'll be okay. Unless, like we talked about there, unless it's some type of I don't know what they call it with zombie apocalypse.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, LL literally double fisted axe throwing by the end of it.
That's awesome.
2 axes at once. It was amazing, and it was
we don't know how to do this, and at the end,
double fisted. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. If you can hear the sound of my voice, I want to thank you for joining another episode of Appreciate the Journey, the podcast. I'm one of your hosts. My name is JoeDREW, but I don't come alone. I come with my partner in time, my brother from another, LL. Say what's up to the people.
What's happening, everyone? So happy to be here.
And I am ecstatic. I say this every time, so sooner or later, someone's going to call me out on like, are you always this excited? Yes, but yes, I am, 100%. Because today is an opportunity to talk to, and I don't say this loosely, one of my favorite coworkers turned friends in my career. And I can't wait to really jump into a great conversation with this person because she has so much to give and so much to share as far as her experiences and her knowledge. So I'm just super excited. What about you, LL?
I'm pumped because I had the opportunity to work with this person for a very short period of time, and since then her career has evolved and kind of taken a completely different direction. So I'm super excited to hear about it and learn a little bit more.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I preface by saying one of my favorite coworkers turned friends. Now, that's how we talk about we were coworkers turned friends. If you ask me to list, she's ahead of you. So I just want you to know this up front. Thanks. I don't want you to feel slighted when it comes out during the show. She is ahead of you, maybe by a couple spots, but we'll leave that here. So without further ado, I want to make sure that I give the proper introduction. So from a professional standpoint, the person who you're about to hear from is currently the head of wellness at Rivian Automotive. She is an absolute phenomenal professional, as versatile as they come, and has some other interests that is starting to bud. And I think hopefully we can get into that conversation. So enough of Joe talking. I want to introduce our Appreciate the Journey family to my friend, Kristin Beckett. Welcome to the show, Kristin. How are you?
I am doing so well. It is so wonderful to be here with both of you.
Oh, we're so happy to have you. Welcome to the show.
Absolutely. Before we get into, our normal show flow, Kristin, give us, if you don't mind, kind of a Cliff's note of your career journey. How'd you get started? What some of the roles that you've held? Let's get that out the way so we can get into the real important stuff.
So most of my journey coming out of college, I went into consulting and was figuring out what I wanted, what area of consulting I wanted to be in, and ended up landing in the supply chain and procurement space. and absolutely like had so much fun with that. And that actually took me from consulting into in quote unquote industry, which meant that I flipped to working for one company instead of consulting for a bunch.
Mhm.
So flipped to doing indirect procurement specifically, which means buying the things that do not go into the main products that a company makes. And so had so much fun, worked in 2 companies for like in that indirect procurement space. And then actually at this most recent company, as you mentioned earlier, Joe, had a real career pivot. And it was based on a passion that I had. I was given the privilege and the opportunity to move into this head of wellness role at the current company that I am at. So it's been most of my career has been in supply chain and procurement. I now get to do what I'm really passionate about doing. So it has been so much fun.
No, that's amazing.
So
go ahead.
I got a quick question. So for the people out there, and that includes myself, what do you do as the head of wellness? Just so people have a good idea what that means.
It's a fantastic question. What I say high level is that I try to take care of the employees at the company. What that actually looks like is a combination of putting programs in place so that everyone can take care of themselves. So that looks like putting programs that support physical wellness, mental and emotional wellness, financial wellness, giving people the access to maybe one-on-one coaching or therapy or fitness programs or a whole host of education type opportunities. So giving people the resources that they need to take care of themselves, as well as advocating internally to have physical spaces and company policies and an environment that supports people feeling their best. It's not easy. It's not easy, but it is. It fuels me. So it's so much fun.
It sounds like a lot, but sounds super valuable. So thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
It is valuable, and we'll get into how our journeys have intersected. As LL has said, you worked with Kristin for a short amount of time. I had the chance to work side by side for a much longer time, and I can't wait to talk about some of the experiences we had together. 2 things I had about your intro that I need to clarify. Where'd you graduate from? Let's get some shout out to the alma mater.
Yeah, I graduated from the College of William and Mary in Williamsburg, Virginia.
Wow. I don't know if I did. I have a couple friends who play football there, so shouts out to that. I didn't even know if I knew that. I learn something new about your people every day. The second thing, you said that you had the honor and the privilege. I call they have the honor and the privilege to have you in that role. And so LL knows about this, and you know me too. I'm not going to allow a person not to take the credit they deserve. And I've observed you up close and personal. It is absolutely the company's privilege and the company's pleasure to have you in that role. So I got to make sure
I receive that. I appreciate that very much. I'm working on accepting that and receiving that appreciation. So thank you.
You have to. You see those 2 little cartoon faces on there? That's me and LL. So you got to receive it on when our faces are on the top right. Then you got to receive it. No, let's jump into the conversation. And as we like to do with our interviews, we want to have a more appreciate the journey type of intro. So we did the corporate intro. You are very familiar with this exercise. This is an exercise that you and I used to do in our professional times together, where we would co-host new hire orientation together. So that was one of my favorite moments every week. We would do this exercise called My Fullest Name. So for the people, I'll give the prompts that you should know like the top of your head. What's the origin of your name? Any meanings behind your name? Any cool stories or anecdotes on how you got your name or around your name, either your first name, your surname, any nicknames that you have? What's the story around that? Take any of those, run with it. The floor is yours, my friend.
Love that. So this will also be familiar to you, Joe, because we have done so many onboarding sessions together. But my name, now it's been a little bit of time that I changed my name back to my maiden last name after a divorce a few years ago. Mm-hmm. And I used to complain the government paperwork takes forever. I can't believe that it's not getting done. And then I realized after about 8 months of waiting, I for some reason pulled out the paperwork and realized that I had filled it out wrong. So had that like humbling moment where I was like, oh no, that was my fault. So resubmitted the paperwork, got everything changed, and then went through the process of changing my name and my email at work. And after it was changed, I had a number of people, after they thought for a second that I got fired, and then they went on LinkedIn and realized I didn't, and I just changed my name. And because the emails did not forward as IT told me they would. But once we got over that hurdle, I had a number of folks reaching out and saying, hey, it looks like you've changed your name. Who's the lucky guy? Congratulations. You know, so lots of assumptions were made, and a lot of congratulations were given. And so I had, in a way, the pleasure of going back to them. And I say pleasure because it was actually a little bit fun to change their perspective. And I said, actually, yeah, congratulations are in order. I got a divorce a little while back. And though it was incredibly challenging, it was the right thing for me. And I saw, as soon as I said the word divorce, if I was with them in person, there was an insert foot in mouth moment that they had. And if I was not, I imagined that moment, because a lot of the subsequent responses that I got were, oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to assume. And I said, no, it's okay. I want to change that perception that though there are things in life that are really hard, the perspective that we can gain from those things, even when those things are the right things for us, they're the right things for us. Right. So there is actually congratulations that can be in order, even if it is a challenging moment.
That's so powerful.
Yeah. And I 100%, if I were there, would have been one of those people to congratulate you. So glad to hear that, and dropping some knowledge on me. And hopefully I don't make that mistake with anybody in the future. So
yeah,
thank you.
Absolutely.
Love that.
Awesome. So, Kristin, let's get back to your journey, if we can. So if you could start at your current place of journey and take us back to some of the most pivotal moments that you had that led you to where you are now.
Yeah, it's a fantastic question. I think of my journey as honestly a series of up-leveling, in the sense that, I don't necessarily mean in terms of title or company or anything like that. It's just felt like the journey has flowed such that it's kind of been this upward spiral of things that feel more fun and closer to my values as a person, right? So incredible experiences to begin with. And then when I got curious, when I was in consulting, got curious about going into industry, had a very simple conversation with a colleague who had left consulting and gone to this other really cool company, and it had no expectations. And just so happened, he had a couple roles on his team and was interviewing and asked me if I wanted to interview. So I was like, sure. So it feels like that has kind of happened multiple times for me as I have shifted from company to company. And then with this most recent role, it honestly flowed really, really nicely. There was a role out there for a wellness coordinator. And I talked to the person who was hiring and said, I would love to be in this role if there is an interest in and an alignment with, what I am passionate about doing. I have transferable skills from procurement that could actually translate nicely, because I would be working with outside vendors in this wellness role. And you want someone who will do strategy, who will do execution. I have done both of those things and I really enjoy it. So if you are willing to make this role, to elevate it such that the leveling all works out, the back end stuff all works out, I would be so excited to make this pivot. And I am sure that there are lots of behind the scenes conversations that happened about me, because that was switching between two totally different teams. So I'm sure that there were conversations that happened that I didn't know about, but it allowed me to make a change. So there's been a lot of curiosity and interest without attaching to, oh my gosh, am I going to get the outcome that I want? So that curiosity has just has allowed things, like I said, to kind of feel like it's going in this nice upward spiral, which has been really, really cool.
No, that is cool. And I love the way that you articulate that. And one of the questions that comes to mind when you tell that story, and we share this, is that you switching industry, so to speak, or switching from what you were doing to a whole nother role. Talk to me about some of the challenges maybe, or, you know, how did that work when you went from a whole side of the business completely to something different? It's HR, it's brand new, you know, there's just so many things that came with it. So I'm just curious of what did you face, maybe what you're still facing today?
It's been cool to see how much life continues to humble me in what I don't know. So there's so much more to learn. And I think there were a lot of great transferable skills that made certain parts of the work that I do now easy, because I know how to work with an outside vendor, let's say, and have a really great partnership with them. But there's a lot on the HR side that I did not know, and that I continue to learn. There's also knowing the way that a new group operates, right? So who to go to for what, who to talk to, how the group is set up, so that I can not to figure out any kind of, you know, corporate hierarchy BS, but really just to know, like, who do I get to work with, and what are the teams who might need my support, and how do I do the best to support them? When I say that, I know that can sound really vague. So when I think specifically about Joe, what we partnered on with new hire orientation, it took me a bit to learn, okay, so part of this HR team does new hire orientation. It would be cool to plug in to new hire orientation so that new folks coming into the company can hear about what wellness even is and know that it is top of mind for us. So challenges, the learning curve was steep, and honestly, it continues to be. The other challenge that I continue to face is that I cannot and will never be able to control every single person's experience at the company.
Yeah.
Not that the reason that I would want, if in a, you know, quote unquote perfect world, that I would want to do that is out of wanting the best experience for them. And it's really tough to have to allow different experiences than what I might perceive as quote unquote good for them. So it's a great and challenging lesson in allowing someone to have their own journey, because perhaps this part of the journey doesn't look like I quote unquote want it to look, but perhaps it's actually the perfect thing that they need right now, even if it feels difficult. So that has and continues to be a challenge and a process for me to let go.
I think that's such a humbling experience for anybody really in any type of work. But you know, I think about my time in HR. You know, you put together a program for everyone. You think, oh man, this is going to be so good. I love it. Everyone that's reviewed it loved it. But there's always going to be people that aren't happy with it, or they just have a negative experience with it. So it's such a great learning experience, and man, I love that you brought that up, and such great insight.
I agree with you, LL. And Kristin, I wanna or KB as I affectionately called. We didn't do that for my fullest name, but KB is an obvious nickname, or KB Toys. I'm just go ahead and tell you business. So one of the things, so we talk about some of those pivotal moments, and obviously we could run this whole podcast with just pivotal moments throughout our careers. But one of the things we want to make sure we always highlight is, with every moment in your journey comes a learning lesson, right? And so what we hear on this show call big rocks, small pebbles, right? So some of these things that you pick up, if I imagine walking on a journey, I may pick up a little rock and skip it in the water or whatever, my mind takes me down. So what are some of those big rocks, small pebbles that you picked up throughout the journey as you were going through some of those pivotal moments that you described?
I think in somewhat chronological order, so pretty early on, the lesson that came to me was taking the initiative before reaching out for help and asking the question. And so it's not that you have to, you know, spend hours and days and, you know, go down an entire rabbit hole if you truly don't know, but at least taking the time with as much information as we have at our fingertips, taking the time to do a quick, let's say, search, if it is. And for me, a lot of the early work was in something as simple as like Excel spreadsheets, right? But if I didn't know how to do something, it's out there, right? At least take the initiative to try to do something before reaching out and asking the question, to show that there was enough care and attention to wanting to learn. And then it's very possible to have someone help you kind of fill in fill in the pieces that might be missing. And then the other big one for me is really this idea that work can be enjoyable. Not the like shoulding on ourselves, like it should be enjoyable. And if you're not doing, what you love, then you're doing it wrong. Like we should on ourselves way too much. But I think just the idea that there is the possibility of work being enjoyable, I love. Like that feels so good to me. It doesn't mean that you are going to like every single moment of every day. And it doesn't even necessarily mean that you are going to like the subject matter of what you are working on. But if you can find something, if there is some perspective that you can take to find enjoyment in the work that you are doing, that is going to bring more enjoyment into your life, right? You're going to meet the cooler people, right? People can feel that. We don't like to talk about what we consider touchy-feely at work. Certainly, God forbid we talk about emotions, right? But which I talk about a ton. So I say that totally jokingly. But even talking about the fact that people can feel the energy that we are putting off, right? They can feel whether we are passionate about something. Doesn't have to be about what we do, but just are we really alive? Is there a vitality to us? Is there a positive energy to us? Or do we have a different energy about us? So that can be felt. And I think what helps get me to that more positive energy is this idea that work can be enjoyable. And I can find some way to see that I am either helping one person or I am learning a lot. And like, what else are we here for, in this Earth school other than to learn? So, yeah.
LL, I know you're going to have a follow-up, but before you do, I reality podcasting here. I'm not mature enough to hear you say shoulding. And
I was going to make a comment about that. I was like, wait, what?
Did KB just say we're shitting on people? No, but I know you well enough to know that you did not say that, and that you said we're shoulding, which is a new concept I had never heard, but it makes perfect sense. So thank you for enlightening me, and I'm going to work on my maturity. All right, LL, it's on you, buddy.
All right. You and me both, brother. So, Kristin, I mean, you have this huge responsibility, right, of wellness for this entire organization. Now, what do you do for yourself to maintain your own physical and mental well-being throughout your journey?
I love that question. And it's been a journey for me to change the perspective, the societal perspective that I should put myself last because that is selfless, to actually doing things that really fill me up. So it looks like a lot of different things. And I love that it's kind of it's in transition right now. So, but moving my body has always been a part of my wellness routine. And it's also, I say that first because it can also be the easier thing to hear first. I think talking about our physical health can also be, it can be easier to talk about than our mental, emotional health. But whether it looks like getting out and hiking in nature, for me recently has been a lot of long walks in Northern California where I live right now. And it feels so good to move. I like lifting heavy weights too, like lots of fun things around movement, but coaching and therapy has been my way to not just exercise my body, to exercise my mind too. So since getting divorced a few years back, therapy has been integral for me to really check in on how I am seeing myself and how I am operating in my relationships with work or with other people, and where that's coming from, like what is beneath the surface there. So there is, I could go into all of the health nerdy things that I really love doing too, like the supplements and all of the superfoods and all of those fun things that I really have my red light therapy, like lots of fun nerdy things. But really the big things, the sleep, the taking care of my mind, the taking care of my body, like those are really big pillars for me. And finding things that I really enjoy doing, right? So right now it's honestly for me as simple as taking pictures in nature, because I think I just love the beauty of nature that is all around me. So simple, but I think I try to bring them in every day.
And that's so awesome. we love talking about that type of stuff here. I'm a huge nerd for mental health, and really want to push that. It's not a taboo topic here. We don't want to make it a taboo topic. I mean, it's something important for everyone. So physical, mental health. I see a therapist. I love it. It's fantastic. It's done wonders for me. So it's really great to hear that other people out there are so open in sharing that. So thank you.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I mean, KB ever humble. When she said move her body. So LL, I am Peloton friends with Kristin. And you know that I take my little bit of Peloton serious when I get into it. You talk about getting my feelings hurt. When I click on her profile and see the number of workouts that this woman has done, I'm like, what am I doing over here? What am I doing with my life? Because she crushes it. So anybody out there that's looking for someone to follow on Peloton, don't follow Kristin. Follow me, and you'll feel better about yourself. Number one. Number two, more seriously, I do have to take this moment, and later on we'll talk about flowers. And anybody who's listened to our other episodes know we like to give people their flowers. I'm jumping ahead because I won't have a chance to do it later. I have to take a moment to truly give some appreciation to Kristin. Last year, I hit a mental wall through work, through family, through everything that's going on. I hit a wall, and I was not sure how to navigate. And I leaned on the weekly, sometimes daily conversations that I had with Kristin, learning and observing her work. We created what we call a sibling team. So my DE&I team or belonging team and her wellness team work together. And so I had a chance, a privilege, and an honor to work with her every day almost. And some of the things that I was just learning, Kristin probably didn't even know that she was helping to guide me in how I was going to navigate my own personal situation. It got to that point where I had to take time off from work and take a sabbatical. And I don't believe that I would have had the confidence to do so if it hadn't been for the conversations we've had. It hadn't been for the wisdom that Kristin bestowed upon me, especially the put your mask on before helping others. So she goes back to the point you just made, Kristin, around it. You don't have to be selfless and make yourself last. So you have to bring yourself forward, fill yourself up so that you can be strong enough to help anybody else. Those lessons were part of my connection with Kristin, and it changed the trajectory of my life. And though professionally my path has changed, my journey has changed, I'm a much happier, healthier person coming out of that situation. And I give you a lot of credit. As you already know, I've already told you this. LL, sister had me grounding outside, right? So I grow up in Detroit, where my parents are like, you better put some shoes on your feet before you go outside. She had me outside in the grass, wiggling my toes, and it felt so good. And I was like, I've never done this before, but because I heard KB talking about it, let me go outside and do some grounding. So I mean, that's just one of the many examples. So if I never say it again, which I will, KB, you are as important of a friend as I've had, especially in this last year, and I'll be forever grateful for our connection and our friendship.
I appreciate that so much. And I hope that it helps others hearing the permission to look at, similar to, my story around my name and divorce, but just to look at these societal illusions, really. Like, what is it that society tells us? And one of those things is put yourself last, and that's you being selfless and, applauding those who are selfless, when actually that's self-abandonment. And because society glorifies it, it is a big reason why so many of us are not doing well. So if it helps anybody else to just say, let's hold whatever it is that society is telling us that, hey, once you get to this title or this amount of money or this, these material things, then you will be happy. Let's just kind of hold those out and look at those and see if they are true for us. So I can say I put that out there, Joe, but you were the one who took action on it. So it's so cool to see how just having a conversation like this conversation can put those thoughts out there and maybe plant the seed that someone else will water and allow to sprout.
Such a wise woman. All right. So speaking of wisdom, the next question we have is, so we're going to imagine that we're Marty McFly in it, and we're jumping in the time machine. I just dated all of us because we all understand Marty McFly. So sorry for dating us. But you jump into your time machine, you're going back. You see young Kristin. You're fresh out of William and Mary. You're done. So nobody knows. You didn't talk about that. You're also a gymnast, and so you just finished your balance beam or whatever it is, and the present Kristin walks up to balance beam Kristin and gives some advice. What type of advice are you giving your younger self that translates into some of our younger listeners who may be just starting off in their career, coming out of college?
Yeah. Take it all as experience and lessons. And sure, there might be things that looking back, you might have done differently. For me, one of those things that I felt shame around was when I cried in front of a boss because he broke me down, right? I was trying so hard and he was criticizing the work that I was doing. And I just I couldn't take any more. And initially I was really hard on myself about that. This is not what you do in a workplace environment, showing emotion in the workplace, is a sign of weakness. But looking at that now and seeing that just as a lesson now, first of all, showing emotion in the workplace is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of humanity. Mm-hmm. But just taking that as a lesson and not being so hard on myself when I take the shame, the guilt, the emotion away, that's when you can find what the wisdom of that lesson is. And that's when you can use it to go act perhaps in a different way, but act differently going forward.
Do you think your younger self would have been scared coming off that balance beam to see the older version of herself? Like what
I think she would have been terrified. That's actually, for me, I feel like that's a sign of growth. If my younger self would have been terrified about who I am now. Yeah. That's kind of, I say that in the best way possible.
I didn't even think about it like that, but that's dope. Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. Like, this is what you turned into. I couldn't believe it. I'm so afraid. I'm so afraid to go down this path.
Exactly. I was afraid to think that big. I was afraid to say that thing. I was afraid to take on that role or to do that thing in my life or to change that thing in my life that I did that I thought, that I didn't like whatever it was. I think in a really good way, it's cool when our younger selves are like, oh, I could never have imagined this version of myself being here right now.
Dope. That's super dope. Did you actually do the balance beam or no? Did I make that up?
I did. My vault was my favorite. That was absolutely my favorite. Balance beam, that thing can hurt when you fall off.
I can only imagine my 6'6" ass falling off. LL, it's on you, brother.
Kristin, this has been such an energizing conversation. I love it so much. As we wrap up here, I always like to ask people, any funny stories, anecdotes that you'd love to share, happy hour type conversation. Obviously, don't share any names, but let's protect the innocent here. But yeah, and funny stories.
When I was thinking about this one, actually kind of goes to the funny intro that we had where I am not good at axe throwing. Another thing that was really hilarious. There was a weekend that I spent in Detroit for this current company that I'm with a bunch of work friends. And we decided to go on a little, rent scooters and go on a scooter tour of downtown Detroit. And I thought that I needed to, put my foot down and kind of push off. These are motorized scooters, by the way, not, no razor scooters here or anything. So I was already moving and for whatever reason decided to put my foot down to push off and move forward, which ended up in me totally flipping the scooter, falling off, like totally scraping up my legs in front of an entire group of new, because at this point I didn't know them that well, new work friends. And the scooter did not work anymore. I had to jump on somebody else's scooter to get back and just deal with the absolute embarrassment that came from me flipping a scooter and landing on my butt on the side of the path. So it was, I'm just gonna make, make fun of myself. Another thing to add to the list of like, not my strong suit.
Wow. I'm glad that you were able to bounce back from that. I can imagine, insert me. I'm done. Like I might need 2 weeks off. Like I'm broken and I need 2 weeks off from work. So
call an Uber right then and there. I'm going home. You'll never see me again.
Yeah, exactly. I resign. I'm gonna leave my resignation next to this broken scooter, and I'm gonna go home. So no, thank you for sharing. I think it's always important for us to find some of the funny moments in our journeys. I think laughter heals, and I think anyone would be lying if they said they have not had a moment that was probably hilarious. So last thing we have, as we like, I teed it up a little bit earlier, but as we like to end every show, is an opportunity to share flowers, right? This is your chance to show appreciation for someone who's been on your journey. So I want to give you the floor and allow you to hand out any flowers you would like.
There are so many people who have been on the journey. One, though, who continues to pop to mind, who I thought it would be really powerful to give flowers to. It's actually my first boss when I was in consulting. His name is Lucas. And when I was reflecting on why it is that he keeps popping into my mind, even though we haven't talked for quite some time, what really came up for me is that he paved the way for me he showed me that you can be human at work. Because even in a consulting environment where actually, as compared to the environments I've seen since then, is a bit more, buttoned up, we could call it a little bit more stuffy. He brought so much humanity. He brought humor. He showed that you can care about a person as a person outside of work, right? That you can have fun together. And so that to me really paved the way to show me that this can show up in a workplace context. And that has not left me, and conversely has stayed very close and informed how I have evolved in my career journey.
Shouts out to Lucas. That's awesome. Hopefully he's able to see that and receive that flower. I think that's also part of what we want to do, is create that surprise and delight. Hopefully someone will click on the ATJ podcast and hear their name and think, wow, that's an amazing feeling. So that's the experience we're looking to create. So here we are at the end of this conversation. As LL said a moment ago, this has been so energizing. Your energy, your spirit, your knowledge, your experience, all the things that you've done is adding so much value to what we're trying to do. And I know those who come in contact with you on a daily basis get that same value. Before we close out, LL, I want to pass it off to you, give you opportunity to share any final words, but also accountability moment. As the person who tries to drive the conversation, it's my responsibility to start and end our shows with you giving us how you can connect, whether it's LinkedIn and all the other handles and things. I failed to do that at the beginning because I was so damn excited to talk to my homie. So I owe you one. But here's your opportunity now. So if you want to say it twice, you can. I don't know if that'll work. But give us, how can the people connect? How can they, kind of stay connected to what we're doing, whether it's podcasts or the career coaching? And then any final words that you may have, LL, the floor is yours, my brother.
All good, man. So again, follow us, like us, subscribe at ATJ, the podcast, and you can find us on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, or you can find us at our website, atjcareercoaching.com. And just a quick final thought, man, I'm going to have to rewatch this episode a couple times because honest to God, Kristin dropped some really great nuggets here. And, just want to make sure that people understand it's okay to take care of yourselves. Like
Absolutely.
Prioritize yourself, take care of yourselves, whatever it is that you're going through. Seek help if you need it. You all know I'm huge on that. So seek the help, take care of yourselves, and do what you need to do.
Absolutely. KB, any final thoughts before we close out for today?
Just lots of appreciation for the conversations that you all are starting that hopefully plant that seed.
Absolutely. And speaking of appreciation, this is Appreciate the Journey, where our journey brought Kristin Beckett, one of my favorite people here, to be able to share a little bit about all the things that she's experienced. On behalf of LL, I'm JoeDREW. Here at Appreciate the Journey, the destination is the journey. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you.
Thanks.